Hello, so in today's video we're going to be going over an A1297 machine that has no backlight. A few differences I'd just like to talk about today. This is going to be one of the first videos I'm doing with the new capture setup. I used to have these little Magewell capture dongles because I was doing the videos using a laptop and I couldn't get a PCI Express card for the laptop. But what I've been doing recently is I got a Blackmagic card for this, and then I got a Blackmagic card for this. Long story short, even when I recorded with raw video settings, I noticed that when I plug the HDMI directly into the monitor, the camera looks better than it does through the computer. Even when I'm recording raw video, no compression. And that was kind of weird. Long story short, if you have like a 422 output source, sometimes the color space winds up getting compressed or looking funny if it can't render the full color space. I am so underqualified to say what any of this means that I'm not even going to bother trying. Long story short, what comes out of the camera is now actually getting recorded instead of getting sodomized inside a little Magewell dongle. Now the other change I made is I'm actually, instead of recording in X264 420, I actually figured out how to record RGB or something. So that means that, because this thing puts out 422 uncompressed video, and that puts out 422 uncompressed video. So by recording to 420, I'm already kind of fucking it up. So now the video, in addition to having the better capture hardware, where what I get in Open Broadcaster is identical to what I would get HDMI out directly into the monitor, I also have 422 recording. Which sadly, you don't get to see that. That's what makes me sad, is that you get to see what YouTube does to it. And YouTube, it just mashes it. There is no 422 video on YouTube. But looks cool for me. So hopefully it looks a little better for you. Anyway, moving on to this. This is one of those lovely individuals that's like, I don't want you to touch anything but my backlight fuse. That's all I want you to fix. Like, not thinking at all that maybe the reason that the backlight fuse blew was because something was fucked up on the computer. So they're really arguing hard for me to plug this shit back in, and you tell me if you would plug this back in. This is why we don't take board-only repairs anymore, by the way. If anybody asking, this is why we don't take board-only repairs. Because if I would have fixed this board-only, this person would plug that back in, and you know what they're going to say? You never fixed my backlight circuit. You never tested it. How dare you? No, I didn't plug anything that was corroded. There's no corrosion. Yeah, of course. There's no pin 38, 39, and 40 either. Of course the pins are not corroded. They're not fucking there. And yeah, again, this is the world that we live in. Somebody actually believes that's good to plug in. So let's get on with it. The other thing you may have noticed is I'm back to this silly microphone since the DPA 4065 broke. I am hoping that I can get that thing back. This is the other funny thing. So I'm using a Blackmagic capture card and a StarTech capture card. You may wonder, why don't I just use two Blackmagic capture cards? This is the funniest line of horseshit. So the Blackmagic people said, "Oh, yeah, your microscope camera doesn't work with this? Yeah, we support broadcast devices, not medical devices." And it's like, what do you mean? Like, this is HDMI output. There at 422 uncompressed. There's HDMI out. And there's HDMI out. Like, what do you mean medical versus broadcast? Like, it shouldn't matter if it's a medical device, a broadcast device, a pornographic device. It's a fucking HDMI capture card that costs several $100s. It should be able to capture everything. Anyway, I would much recommend that somebody get a StarTech capture card instead of a Blackmagic after that experience, because the Blackmagic thing was just a complete fucking waste of my time. It also doesn't auto-detect anything. So if you plug in a 1080p 60 frame per second source, and you set the Blackmagic to 1080p 59.94, it ain't going to work. It's not even going to say error. It just doesn't work, which is horseshit. The StarTech works right out of the box, and the StarTech has all the added benefits that the Blackmagic card did over the Magewell capturing hardware, which is that it didn't have any of the color space issues, so everything actually looks the same. The last cool upgrade after getting my DPA microphone back, which I'm excited about, so this thing is a piece of shit. I'm hoping to get my DPA 4065 fixed. If that's not fixed, I'm hoping to just outright buy a DPA 4088. I hate the way this. You have to do a lot of work to actually make this sound decent. It sounds like a complete pile of crap. I'm actually getting rid of all these lights in my office. They're these really cheap blue, purplish tinted LEDs. Not cool white. I mean, they're purple. Like, I have this yellow covering over them just to try to counteract it, but it fucks with your eyes after a while. So I'm replacing all the lights in the store because it's driving me nuts. And I'm kind of curious how it's going to affect what the videos look like. But enough yabbering on, and let's get to the board. So I'm not really a fan of this LCD connector, so this may be usable, and I don't really care. I'm not keeping it there. If I keep that there, this is going to come back in a month with the whole "you never fixed the thing." So Better to be safe than sorry with the type of person that's going to ask me to reuse that LCD connector, that LCD cable. Brave through it, JBC. You can do it. Good, JBC. Okay, turning the hot air off. This is definitely not the right proper tip for wicking, but it'll actually work for it. You'll see. So I added some flux. Now after adding the flux, I'm going to add some standard soda, S-A-U-D-A-H. Yeah. Then we do some wicking. So let's see what we can get away with this bent tip that I use. See, the thing with the curvy tip that's beautiful is that it really is multi-purpose. Because when you use that elbow, it works like a larger tip. But you can also use a little fine point if you want a fine point tip. So I'm using the exact opposite of the type of tip you should use for wicking, and it's actually doing a pretty damn good job. You may ask why. It's because it's the end of the day and I don't feel like changing my tip. So see the elbow? See how I'm using the elbow? When I use the elbow, I get the same effect that I would get if I was using a larger tip. And it did my job for me pretty well. I'm happy with that. Not exactly that happy with the color balance of this, but yeah. There we go. Beautiful color balance. So then we clean it off a little bit before finding a new connector to put over there. Oh, another fun thing to keep in mind. This is the 17-inch 2011 model, so guess what's just about to die on it? I opened it up and this thing was filled with dust, so yeah. Sometimes I wonder if, just by mistake one day, if Apple will make a computer with a graphics chip that doesn't die. Just by accident, Like not intending to make something last, but I have a feeling if they really try. Okay, I got myself a new LCD connector. So now I just got to get some flux on the board and take out my new LCD connector. And come on, come here. Good LCD connector. All right. That's my Amtech 559. I actually sell that now, so if you go to the website, mailin.repair, that's MAILIN.repair, you'll see, if you search for Amtech, you'll see that we are selling this stuff now. A lot of people have asked about it. It's very hard to get flux directly from Amtech because they ask for, there's no add to cart button. There's just, POs and faxing and all that stuff that's typically reserved for, lack of a better way to say it, kind of old people. The modern world, I just want to be able to use PayPal or a credit card, hit a button and buy stuff. And you can do that on my site. Unfortunately, you can't on Amtech's, which just sucks because they make wonderful, wonderful products. I love Amtech Flux. So I want to get this as aligned as I can. And then press down with the tweezers as I'm soldering because I want it to also be close to the board. If it's not close to the board, this work is worthless. So see how I'm always constantly rearranging the board so it's comfortable for me? What's most important is that while I'm working, I am comfortable. Fuck the board's comfort. I don't care about the board's comfort. The board's comfort is completely meaningless to me. I should be using the micro pencil at this point, because I have really little room between the Ethernet transformer and the LCD connector, as you can see. As crappy as this mic is, it actually has some pretty damn good isolation because, again, the air filter is loud, the hot air is loud, this air purifier is really loud. So, I mean, it's kind of nice to have something that sits in between. It's nice to be able to get rid of some of that noise. The DPA 4065 is a great microphone. It just doesn't isolate as well because it's an Omni and this is a cardioid. But since this is a cheap cardioid, it sounds like shit. Right. Notice the 3 on the end are harder to solder because there's a higher thermal mass. Be careful of this, not scratch it. Nightmare. There's no schematic for that board, and that's the one where they put everything backwards. I fixed it, it's just it has no backlight. Tell them to fix the backlight, and it's good. You can also go pin by pin like this. The thing I like about this tip is that you can use it as a fine point iron, or you can use it as a stronger iron if you use it as with the blade. Use the blade edge. See, if I want to use the blade, I can do that too, like this. So it's adept at both clearing bridges, and it's also adept at just going one pin at a time, which is very nice. Admittedly, the curvy tip on the 2027 is actually better for any of the dragging stuff that I like to do. This does not drag as well because of the lower thermal mass and just the way it's curved. But I'm using this one here just because of that damn Ethernet transformer. It's a pain in the ass. So I'm just going up and down each pin now. So we have a nice melted in joint. Nice flowed joint. I'm feeling the sharp tip of it all the way up and then all the way down the pin. Remember, the last 3 pins are supposed to be connected together. Those are for backlight, so I don't give a shit if there's a blob, a little bit of a blob there. You don't want anything huge. It's just if they're shorted together, it's nothing to cry about. This is motherboard repair. Nothing is anything to ever cry about. But if I were to cry, it wouldn't be over that. And we're almost done. And if you use that T15-JSO2, you can literally go all the way across, and it's much faster than this one. Come on, mofo. How am I have to short it together? I just want it to look nice and clean. Oh, well, that's good. So, now we have to do the sides. Sides are a pain in the ass, especially on this, because it's really easy to flow solder inside the connector, and if you flow solder inside the connector, that's no good. No good. So now I already know that the anchor pins were soldered to the point where it's flat on the board. So now I'm just using the side of my bladed tip, I'm touching the pad of the board, and I'm touching the side of the connector. That's soldered. Now I'm going to add flux, and I'm going to push down on this just to make sure that this can remove any excess, and beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now we do the other side. I'm going to turn the board around again. Keep in mind that this is all about your comfort, not the comfort of the board. The board's comfort does not matter one bit. Okay, we're going to go over here and... Okay, same idea. Whoa, where the hell did you come from? Get the fuck off my board. Add a tiny bit of flux and then just push down, make sure it's flat on the board. Clean my iron, make sure it's nice and clean. By the way, for those who are questioning what type of bladed tip this is that I'm using, this is from HAKKO, the T30-KN. That's T30-KN for the HAKKO FM2032 iron, which attaches to the HAKKO FX951 station, which I reviewed previously. Okay, now the second issue here is going to be, since that's shorted, the backlight fuse will be bad. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that. It's going to be this little thing with the P on it. Okay, I'll remove it with hot air, but it's going to be easier to take it off with the hot air if the joint is freshly flowed and had leaded solder instead of the lead-free that it comes with. So what I've done there is I've just made it a little bit easier for the hot air to remove that. Not that this JBC station needs anything to be easy. This thing just rips through everything like crazy. Boom. This iron, that thing was off and sitting in a cold room, and it just, yeah. So now we just suck up all the old stuff. All the old lead-free solder is going to be gone in that little ball in my iron. Now we're ready to put a fuse there that's not blown, and after I put a fuse there that's not blown, I'll plug a screen in and you'll get to see that we have a working image, working backlight, working everything. There is absolutely no way in hell that I'm going to plug in this person's original screen. No. I don't care what you ask me to do. I do not do what people ask me. I do what will work, and I charge accordingly. And same should go for you. You are not going to do what people ask you to do. That is a rabbit hole to hell. When you do what people ask you to do, you fuck yourself. I let my fuse fly it's actually sitting on the tip of the input to my air filter, and it didn't go in the air filter. That's amazing. It doesn't want to leave my tweezers. That's fine. I'll partially solder it. It's partially on the board. Now that it's partially on the board, I'm going to flux it and then heat it and push down, and then it will surface tension will bring it exactly where it needs to be. So watch. See? A lot of people have trouble getting this stuff off the tweezer. You don't try to solder it perfectly. You just get it the fuck on there. And then once you have it on there in some way, then you can push it into place. Bam. Then when you know it's perfectly in place, exactly where it's supposed to be, you can always do this. A little bit of flux. Bam. Okay, now what it's time to do is grab a screen and see if this thing actually works. I love how fast this thing turns on, but just also turns off. It cools down very, very quickly. This JBC station is lovely. Again, is this something I would ever buy myself if somebody else didn't get it for me at $1,800? No way. I would pay for that if I was fixing stuff that cost $10,000 and above at prices that where I was priced accordingly. I just can't. I can't pay that much for something that I'm using to fix fucking laptop motherboards. It's not happening. So now I'm going to get a screen and see how that works. Let's put my fuses back. Yep. Yeah, I can't. Greedy. A 15-inch screen will work on a 17-inch machine. A 13-inch screen won't work on a 15 or a 17, and a 17-inch one and a 15-inch won't work on the 13, at least when it comes to the old ones that use LVDS. When it comes to DisplayPort, you can use a 13-inch Retina on a 15-inch Retina and vice versa. You can use a 13-inch Air on an 11-inch Air and vice versa. But you do not, for the love of God, plug a Retina into an Air into a Retina, an Air or a Retina into an older one that uses LVDS. Just because the connector is the same does not mean it will fucking work. That will end in a nightmare for you. Okay. I should measure to see if the short to ground is gone. That would be the responsible thing to do before plugging this in, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think I should measure if the short to ground is gone before I put power through it. Let's see. Zoink. What do I have? 0.694. I don't remember what this LED driver should be. That sounds good. That doesn't sound like a short. It's turning on. And it lit up the screen. Okay, now quick, we turn it off before the GPU dies because you know what's going to go on with this. So that's that. Hopefully that worked, and hopefully it looked better than my previous videos. Again, I know that YouTube is ruining it, but you do what you can. I'm kind of excited to see what the new lights are going to be like in the office. I'm not doing that for filming, to be honest. I know it'll help filming, but I think it'll affect my mood if I'm not in a room with incredibly overbearing bluish, purplish blue first-generation lighting. I don't know what it is. I just feel like that just fucks with your eyes, and I don't know why I ever bought these cheap pieces of shit, and I'm so excited to be getting rid of them. Now, as is usual with my luck, they're actually lost right now. They're actually lost with FedEx. And so, a lot of people will say, can you ship via FedEx? Why do you use the post office? The post office is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing that people don't get about the post office. Priority mail is 2 to 3 days from one side of the country to another. With 1 to 3 pound packages, that winds up costing the same, or like almost the same as UPS ground and FedEx ground. But FedEx ground or UPS ground from Vegas to here, it's like a week and a half or a week, whereas priority mail is 2 to 3 days for almost the same price. So that allows you to get the benefits of second-day shipping or 3-day shipping without paying the ridiculously inflated rates of second-day or next-day shipping. It's cool. And the thing is with package loss, like, people are going to really disagree with me on this, but everybody loses packages. I mean, you got to realize, like, the guy who works at FedEx delivering, 100 or 200 or 5,000 packages a day, who gets paid his crappy fuck-ass salary. He cares about you just as little as the post office man. The post office man cares just as little about you as the UPS man. It is just a job to those people, you know? It's not like they're getting bonuses and stock options based on packages delivered. It's, it's hourly. They all have this a very similar model. None of them is treating you any better than the other. Anyway, so this board is good, now works, and as always, I hope you learned something.